My name is Nick Breyfogle. I'm an associate professor at Ohio State in the history department, and I'm a specialist in two areas really, in Russian history and also in environmental history. I teach a wide range of courses here at Ohio State, everything from the Introduction to Modern European History, which I enjoy a great deal, as well as a series of courses in Russian history, particularly the history of Imperial Russia, that is Russia before the Revolution of 1917, as well as a course on the history of Siberia, and as well as I teach environmental history courses, in particular courses on the human history of water. At the moment, for my research, I'm really interested in exploring kind of questions of the human relationship to the natural world. I'm fascinated by the ways in which that intersections of humans and nature has helped to define the parameters and the choices that humans have in their own existence. I'm writing history of the world's oldest and largest lake, which is a lake in the Siberian part of Russia known as Lake Baikal. And it's a magical place. You should all go there if you get a chance. It's the oldest lake in the world. It's the largest lake in the world in terms of the volume of water inside and in terms of the depth. It has more water in it than all of the Great Lakes combined. It has an incredible variety of all sorts of species that exist nowhere else. It's the home to the world's only species of freshwater seal. There are some other seals that live both in saltwater and freshwater, but this is the only place on the planet where you can find seals that exist only in freshwater. No one knows quite how they got there. There's some talk that perhaps they swam upriver from the Arctic Ocean at some point up into Lake Baikal and adapted to fresh water during that process, but otherwise we have no idea how they made their way up in that direction. You know, Baikal is a very old lake. It's about 25 million years old, and so there's a lot of history that we don't know about it and about its species. There's also a fish called the golomyanka, which is one of the most remarkable things I've ever seen. They are fish that are primarily made up of oil, and what this makeup allows them to do is to be able to move up and down the different pressure zones in the lake without any kind of frankly, without being crushed. Lake Baikal is tremendously deep. It's about a mile deep at its deepest point. And of course, the further down you go in a body of water like that, the stronger the pressure becomes. And so at a depth where a solid metal canister is crushed almost into nothingness, these golomyanka are in some ways unaffected because of their peculiar oil structure. If you get them out into the air at any temperature, really in the 50s Fahrenheit or above, they melt in your hand. So that, when it's really cold out, you can bring them out, but in any kind of warm weather, they just turn into the oil that makes them up, and so they're quite remarkable in that way. I explore the human relationships to this lake and the ways in which the lake and the different species that inhabit the lake and live in and around the lake have helped to define the patterns of human life in that whole region. So I look at a whole variety of different types of topics from the history of fishing in the region, from the way in which Baikal was long understood as a sacred site, all sorts of sacred places around the lake, and so a place of religious importance in the lives of the population. I look at the history of earthquakes at the lake. It's a seismically active zone that can in fact unleash a freshwater tsunami. They're that strong and the lake is that big. I also research the ways in which, particularly in the 20th century and particularly after World War II, a whole variety of different industrial development projects, from a hydroelectric dam to pulp and paper mills to railroad development in the area, had a tremendous impact on the environmental quality of the lake. And then in response, how the way in which scientists, journalists, many other community members in the area around Baikal stood up against these efforts of development of the area, and were able in some ways to shut down some of these industrial activities and to mitigate some of the worst impacts of others. I mean, ultimately, from my own work in Russian history, when I teach European history, when I teach Russian history, when I teach environmental history, I draw examples from the research that I've done. And so From my work on Baikal, I bring in examples when I'm talking about Russian expansion out into Siberia, about what happens when they come to Lake Baikal. When I teach the history of Siberia, to think about the ways in which the story of Baikal helps us to understand the larger story of Siberian history in terms of resource extraction and conservation and interethnic contact between Russians and Buryats and Evik people who lived around the lake, and the ways in which the lake then becomes a mediator between the Russian colonial power and the people who lived in this particular region. So I try to bring all of these examples in. Having spent so much time in Russia over the years, my sort of understanding of the place, what it looks like, what it feels like, what it means to live there, what it's like to interact with people who are there, how those interactions have changed over time, particularly from the Soviet period and through the different stages in the post-Soviet world. Those are also things that I can bring to the classroom, that I try to tell the stories of not just the history, but my experience in gathering the history and my experience with the people that I've run into in this country over the last, almost 30 years now.